Welcome back to the Real Bio Protocol. Cold open a tendon tear that surgeons said would take 18 months to heal. Gone in 6 weeks. Full range of motion, zero surgery. And the peptide that made it happen, it's been used in horse racing for decades because it works so well they had to ban it from competition. Not because it was dangerous, because it gave animals an unfair healing advantage. Now here's where this gets dark. A board-certified physician in Arizona started prescribing this same compound to his patients. Construction workers with blown-out shoulders, weekend athletes with chronic Achilles problems, people who'd been told their only options were surgery or a lifetime of pain management. And they started healing, fast, too fast. Within 18 months that doctor lost his medical license. Not for harming patients, not for malpractice, for prescribing a peptide that the pharmaceutical industry couldn't patent and the surgical industry couldn't profit from. The medical board claimed he was practicing outside the standard of care, but what they really meant was he was practicing outside the standard of revenue. The peptide is called TB-500, and what I'm about to show you is why the entire regenerative medicine establishment wants this compound buried. ACT1 the problem? Let me paint you a picture of how injury recovery works in modern medicine. You tear a tendon. Maybe it's your rotator cuff. Maybe it's your ACL. Maybe it's that Achilles tendon that's been nagging you for years until one day it just snaps while you're playing basketball with your kids. You go to an orthopedic surgeon. They run imaging. They confirm the tear. And then they give you options. Option 1, surgery. 6 to 12 months of recovery. Tens of thousands of dollars. Physical therapy 3 times a week. And here's the statistic they don't mention in the consultation room. A 2019 study in the Journal of Bone and Joint Surgery found that up to 34% of rotator cuff repairs re-tear within 2 years. 1 in 3. After all that pain, after all that money, after all that time off work, 1 in 3 people end up right back where they started. Option 2, conservative treatment. Rest, ice, anti-inflammatory drugs that destroy your gut lining and increase your cardiovascular risk. Physical therapy that costs $200 per session. And the promise that maybe if you're lucky in 18 to 24 months you might regain partial function. Notice what neither option includes: actual regeneration. Modern orthopedic medicine has become extraordinarily good at cutting things out, pinning things together, and managing symptoms. But regeneration, growing new tissue, healing at the cellular level, that's treated like science fiction. That's treated like something your body just can't do anymore once you're past 30. And they want you to believe that. Because surgery is a $90 billion industry in the United States alone. Because physical therapy generates hundreds of millions in recurring revenue. Because pain management drugs are the backbone of pharmaceutical profit margins. What they don't want you to know is that your body has regenerative capabilities that would shock you. Capabilities that can be activated and amplified. Capabilities that certain peptides can unlock. But those peptides can't be patented. They can't generate surgical fees. They can't keep you coming back for cortisone injections every 3 months. And that's why, when doctors started using them, the establishment had to act. The American medical system isn't designed to heal you. It's designed to treat you, indefinitely, profitably. And any compound that threatens that model, it gets buried. The doctors who prescribe it get made examples of. And the patients who could benefit, they never even hear about it. TB-500 heals tendons. It regenerates tissue. It does what surgery promises but frequently fails to deliver, and the medical establishment is terrified of it. ACT2, the hidden truth. Let's talk about what TB-500 actually is, because once you understand the science, you'll understand why they want it suppressed. TB-500 is a synthetic version of a naturally occurring peptide called thymosin beta-4. This isn't some underground lab creation cooked up by biohackers. Thymosin beta-4 exists in your body right now. It's produced by your thymus gland. It's found in high concentrations in wound fluid, in blood platelets, and in any tissue that's actively trying to heal itself. Your body already makes this compound. We're just talking about giving it more. The research on thymosin beta-4 goes back to the 1960s. This isn't new science. This isn't experimental. There are over 4,000 published studies on this peptide in the scientific literature. Here's what the research shows. A 2010 study published in the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences demonstrated that thymosin beta-4 promotes angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels. This is critical for injury recovery because damaged tissue needs blood flow to heal. Without adequate circulation, injuries linger. Scar tissue forms. Function never fully returns. Thymosin beta-4 literally builds the infrastructure that healing requires. A 2012 study in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology showed that thymosin beta-4 accelerates wound healing by promoting keratinocyte migration. In plain English, it helps your cells move to where they're needed. When you have a tendon tear, the healing cells need to migrate to the injury site. This peptide essentially gives them GPS and a turbo boost. But here's where it gets really interesting. A 2007 study from the University of Texas found that thymosin beta-4 reduces inflammation at the injury site while simultaneously promoting tissue regeneration. This is almost unheard of. Most anti-inflammatory interventions also suppress healing. That's why NSAIDs actually slow tendon recovery. They block inflammation, but inflammation is part of the repair process. Thymosin beta-4 modulates inflammation. It keeps it from becoming destructive while preserving its regenerative function. The equine racing industry figured this out years ago. TB-500 became so popular among horse trainers that racing commissions worldwide had to ban it. Not because horses were getting hurt, because horses were healing too fast. Horses with career-ending injuries were returning to competition in weeks instead of months. Let me say that again. They banned it because it worked too well, and human studies, they exist. They're just not talked about. A Phase 2 clinical trial conducted by Regen RX Biopharmaceuticals showed that thymosin beta-4 eye drops accelerated healing in patients with neurotrophic keratitis, a condition where the cornea loses its ability to heal. Patients who had been told their condition was essentially untreatable started regenerating tissue. The data is there. The mechanisms are understood. The clinical evidence exists. So why isn't your doctor prescribing this? Follow the money. ACT3, the mechanism. Let me explain exactly how TB-500 works at the cellular level. Because this isn't magic, this is biochemistry. And once you understand the mechanism, you'll realize how profound this compound really is. TB-500 works primarily through two pathways: actin regulation and cell migration. First, actin. Actin is a protein that forms the structural skeleton of your cells. It's like the scaffolding inside every cell in your body. When tissue is damaged, cells need to reorganize their actin to migrate, divide, and rebuild. Think of actin as the construction framework that determines cell shape and movement. Thymosin beta-4 is one of the primary regulators of actin in the human body. It binds to monomeric actin single actin molecules and prevents them from polymerizing prematurely. This sounds technical, but here's what it means practically. It keeps the cellular building materials in a ready state. When cells need to move or divide, the actin is available and properly organized. In injured tissue, this is critical. Cells need to migrate to the wound site. They need to divide to replace damaged tissue. They need to reorganize to form functional structures. TB-500 makes all of this happen faster and more efficiently. Second, cell migration. TB-500 contains a specific amino acid sequence called the actin binding domain. This domain interacts with cell surface receptors and literally promotes cell motility. Studies have shown that cells treated with thymosin beta-4 migrate significantly faster toward injury sites. But it gets more complex. TB-500 also upregulates several genes involved in tissue repair. A 2008 study in the FASEB journal showed that thymosin beta-4 increases the expression of MMP2 and MMP9, matrix metalloproteinases that break down damaged extracellular matrix to make room for new tissue. Without this breakdown of scar tissue, healthy regeneration can't occur. You'd just be building new tissue on top of damaged scaffolding. The peptide also modulates inflammatory cytokines. Specifically, it downregulates pro-inflammatory markers like IL-1 beta and TNF-alpha while preserving beneficial inflammation required for healing. This selective anti-inflammatory action is why TB-500 doesn't impair recovery the way NSAIDs do. Now let's talk about tendons specifically. Tendons are notoriously slow healers. They have poor blood supply compared to muscles. The tenocytes, the cells that make up tendon tissue, are relatively inactive and slow to proliferate. This is why tendon injuries can take years to fully resolve. TB-500 addresses both problems. Through angiogenesis, it improves blood flow to the tendon. Through actin regulation and cell migration enhancement, it activates tenocytes and accelerates their movement to the injury site. Through matrix metalloproteinase upregulation, it clears damaged tissue and makes room for healthy collagen deposition. Multiple animal studies have demonstrated that TB-500 treatment results in tendons that are not just healed but histologically superior, meaning under a microscope the collagen organization looks more like uninjured tissue than typical scar tissue repair. This is regeneration, not just repair. Your body knows how to do this. It has the machinery. It has the cells. It has the capability. TB-500 just amplifies the signal. ACT4 real-world application. So what does an actual TB-500 protocol look like? Because theory is worthless without application. First, let's talk dosing. The most commonly used protocol in regenerative medicine circles is a loading phase followed by a maintenance phase. Loading phase 2.0 to 2.5 milligrams injected subcutaneously twice per week for 4 to 6 weeks. This front loads the system and creates rapid tissue concentration. Maintenance phase 2.0 to 2.5 milligrams once per week for an additional 4 to 6 weeks. This maintains elevated levels while the tissue completes the healing process. Total protocol duration 8 to 12 weeks for most soft tissue injuries. The half-life of TB-500 is relatively long. Studies suggest plasma half-life around 4 to 6 hours, but tissue retention is much longer. This is why twice-weekly dosing during loading is sufficient. The peptide accumulates where it's needed. Injection site matters less than you might think. TB-500 is systemically active. Unlike some peptides that work locally, TB-500 distributes throughout the body and concentrates at sites of injury and inflammation. You can inject subcutaneously in the abdomen, and it will find your torn rotator cuff. Your body's inflammatory signaling literally guides it to where it's needed. Now, synergistic compounds. Many practitioners combine TB-500 with BPC-157, another healing peptide with complementary mechanisms. BPC-157 is particularly effective for gut healing and works through different pathways including the FAK-Paxilin pathway and nitric oxide system. Used together, these peptides appear to have synergistic effects, though direct clinical comparison studies are limited. A common combination protocol is TB-500, 2.5 milligrams twice weekly, BPC-157 to 250 mcg twice daily, either injection or oral. Duration 6 to 8 weeks. Timing relative to injury matters. TB-500 appears most effective when started soon after injury during the inflammatory and proliferative phases of healing. Starting treatment months or years after an injury shows diminishing returns because the tissue has already laid down scar formation. That said, many users report improvement in chronic injuries. It just takes longer and may require repeated protocols. What to expect? Most users report noticeable improvement beginning around week 2 or 3. Pain decreases, range of motion increases, strength begins returning. By week 6 to 8, many chronic injuries that had persisted for months or years show significant resolution. Side effects are generally mild. Some users report transient head rush immediately after injection. Some notice increased fatigue during the loading phase, likely related to the energy demands of accelerated healing. Localized irritation at injection sites occurs occasionally. This is not medical advice. This is education about what the research shows and what practitioners in the regenerative medicine space are doing. Your decisions about your own body are yours to make, but the information should be available to you, and that's what they don't want. ACT5, the bigger picture. Step back with me for a moment. What we've been talking about isn't just a peptide. It's a window into how the entire medical system operates. There's a naturally occurring compound in your own body that accelerates healing. Science has known about it for over 50 years. The mechanisms are well documented. The research is extensive. Animal studies show remarkable results. Human trials demonstrate safety and efficacy. And yet, if you walk into your doctor's office with a torn tendon and ask about thymosin beta-4, they'll look at you like you're speaking another language. Why? Because the system isn't designed to heal you. It's designed to manage you, to keep you coming back, to keep the surgical suites booked, to keep the physical therapy sessions recurring, to keep the prescription pads turning into pharmacy profits. A tendon that heals in 6 weeks doesn't generate 18 months of billable treatments. A shoulder that regenerates without surgery doesn't create a $40,000 surgical revenue event. A patient who recovers fully doesn't become a chronic pain management cash cow. The doctors who step outside this system get made examples of. Their licenses revoked, their careers destroyed. Not for harming patients, for helping them too effectively. They want you believing that your body stops healing after 30, that surgery is your only option, that chronic pain is just something you learn to live with. But your body is a regeneration machine. It knows how to build new tissue. It has that capability written into every cell. It just needs the right signals. TB-500 is one of those signals. The research exists. The mechanisms are understood, the protocols are established. The only thing missing is access and awareness. That's what they want to control: your information, your options, your choices about your own body. They want a monopoly on healing, and peptides like TB-500 threaten that monopoly at its foundation. So they suppress the research. They revoke the licenses. They pretend these compounds don't exist, but the science is out there. They just don't want you finding it. That's why we're here. This is the real bio protocol.